Ray Goggins, thanks for joining me on the Mindful podcast.
Dermot, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for asking me to come up.
Man, I'm so happy to talk to you because I've had the benefit of chatting to you once in my Today FM life back in the day. And the nature of radio is those interviews, you're in and out before you know what's happened. So to be able to sit down with you today and explore that super brain of yours, I'm very excited about that. I want to talk about mental toughness with you.
Yes.
That's your gig, that's what you've lived in an amazing career. Do you think anyone can be mentally tough?
I think anyone potentially can be mentally tough, but there's a few boxes you need to tick first for me. So mental toughness comes into, I spoke about it earlier, about purpose in the first place for me, why you're doing something. So if you have a big enough idea as to why you're actually really doing something, for real now, not the kind of bullshit stuff we tell ourselves, oh, I'm doing it because of this or I'm doing it because of money. Really, just the inside stuff that, you get a bit of fulfillment, a bit of balance from. Like when you have that, then your ability then to endure is multiplied by any figure once you have absolute purpose and you know why you're doing something. So if it makes sense really inside, you connect the body, mind, soul thing, then you have a much better chance. You believe in what you're doing, you really want to do it, and whatever happens, you will get there. In the end, it might take you 100 attempts, but you keep going.
Yeah. Give us an example of maybe, it could be from military life or people you've worked with in business or, an example of someone thinking they had an idea of that purpose, but actually it was paper thin. Like when you drill down into it. Give us a kind of an example of what you might have come across.
I can give any amount for myself, I suppose, things that I kind of jumped into ad hoc and the arse fell out of it because I just didn't join the dots. Didn't create that wire, that big voice that tells you to keep going no matter what. Like that's the voice you need to create all the time, no matter what you're doing. When you have that voice, like the where or the what or the how doesn't really matter. Like the why will get you there always. So I suppose personally, my first selection course, I suppose, giving a very easy example. So to get into special forces, you have to do this kind of like Jackass Days event for months on end. It's 11 months and 2 weeks now of being battered physically, mentally, spiritually and all that. And like, if you don't really understand why you're doing it, then you're not going to make it, because you get in the dark on your own. You're in your own space in your head on your own a lot, even when you're with people. And like, that's when that negative voice comes out. And for me, that's what happened on my first selection course. I didn't believe in myself enough. I didn't think I was good enough. I had all these doubts. I hadn't created a why and I hadn't enough purpose. So I failed. I quit, put my hand up and left after a couple of weeks. So it took me 7 years to figure out why all that happened. So I dug in deeper, got more into my own kind of mindset about how I actually approach stuff, and instead of having the typical Irish attitude of, sure, we see what happens, you're fucked if you're doing that. Let's be honest, in these environments. So I discovered, I kind of took it more seriously then. I worked on purpose. I worked on my why. I worked on self-belief.
And how did they change then? What became your purpose and your why then?
My purpose then was for me to go back on this selection course and get into special forces and all this kind of stuff. And I gave it the due diligence it deserved, as in, it's not just enough to kind of train your body to go and do this thing. You need to get your mind ready. And for me, that purpose and that why comes from self-belief, how you see yourself, how you feel about yourself and your abilities. And even when you're doing something that completely has you at your limit and even beyond it, like if you really, really understand why you're doing it, then it gives you that ability to step beyond your range,
Why did you want to be in special forces then? What was the sense of purpose?
I suppose for me, look, it was always in me and I can never probably explain. I had something inherently in me, even as a kid, about being a soldier. And I suppose special forces is like the army of the army, if you know what I mean. So like, it's like the next level up. So whatever kind of fuels me in life, and just being a soldier was that. I was lucky. I found my goal very young. And like, if you're doing something you love and something that you really, really is for you, then you will be very good at it. You'll always do well. Even when it comes to shit, you'll still find something. And I found for me, in the regular army when I was serving there for 9 years, which is brilliant, and they're great guys.
So this is 1990 to 99.
Yeah, 1999. Yeah, I had some fantastic experiences with great fellas, and girls, and having a crack. But like there was just this grow just to do something else, and I just wanted to get into that world and see what it was like, and it was in me all the time. I would probably spend a certain amount of my day thinking about it and how I would do it. So I started building my routine about how I would train for it, how I prepare myself for it, and for the mental strength side of it. Like resilience and all that kind of stuff comes down to how you see yourself. Like you have to see yourself as being able, capable, and doing it. You have to visually see yourself completing what you're hoping to do. Because if you don't, you won't get there. Like you have to win in your head first.
Are you actively visualizing?
Yeah, I learned as a shooting skill. The military are very good for that. So they used to teach us. I was on a shooting team when I was in the regular army for a while, and our shooting coach used to teach us this kind of, it's called cognitive visualization. You've probably done it a lot, and it was the first time I came across it. So it's just basically walking through the steps you're going to take in this challenge. So constantly, like, and it's a combination of, muscle memory, actual memory, and just going through the motions of what you're going to do when this pressure moment comes on. And that's what you replay then for real. And in the military, the army are really good for this, because even on operations, when you train, when you prepare for an operation, you go into massive detail. Why do you go into massive detail? You go into massive detail to build your belief as a group, as an organization, as an individual. So when you go on this mission, which, potentially you're going to be getting shot at and some get hurt, you actually believe you're going to do it, even when it looks like you're not.
Yeah.
So, and at the end of all that, when you do your preparation as a team to go on a mission in the military, the last thing you do before you set off is you rehearse it. You walk through every single action of like how you get off the helicopter, what way you're going to kneel down, what way you're going to be on the objective, what you're going to do. Dermot, what are you going to do? Ray, what are you going to do? And that's what you do.
When you were doing those, did you ever have a scenario like the movies where they have a board and miniature versions of what you're going to be doing and you're sliding little jeeps and tanks around?
Yeah, they used to make you, when I got trained to be an NCO, a corporal as a younger soldier, they teach you how to give orders and do these things. So you have to prepare what's called a model aid kit. So if you need to brief people in a hurry, you have a little bag where you throw out all these little things, and you can have small little bits and pieces that you can put out there, And I remember doing my course, you'd have maybe a sign that might say enemy or target. But I remember being on a course with a particular individual who came from behind a desk, wasn't particularly into the military stuff, and I remember at the time, the little toys you get in the cereal packets, she had Snap, Crackle and Pop as her enemy. So given a brief, and there's Snap, Crackle and Pop are the target. I thought it was the best thing I ever saw. It was outstanding. I wish I had my own ones. Yeah, fair play. Yeah. So you do have those things.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad. It makes me feel happier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some of the training you talk about, like there's a bit in your book. Well, actually, let's go back to the shooting bit a minute ago, because there's actually a picture in your book of you, I'd say age 7 or 8, at a shooting range in an amusement park. Is that where it started for you in terms of like, I'm not saying you wanted to become a soldier at that moment, but as a kid, you said it was always kind of in you.
Yeah, I was always drawn to that kind of stuff, and like that was just part of it. It probably wasn't the start. It probably started even before that. Yeah. Because I suppose, to be fair, my older brother was in the army serving. My father had served, but I had never seen him. I was only 2 when he retired, whatever. And he wasn't the kind of guy who carried it on afterwards. Like, he never really spoke about it, all that kind of stuff. But I don't know, Dermot, there was just something in me.
Yeah.
Like,
was it Jim, your older brother?
Yeah, Jim was my older brother, yeah.
So you saw him, parading and
all that kind of stuff.
What do you call that day when you qualify?
Yeah, it's called passing out.
Passing out, yeah.
As opposed to fainting.
Yeah.
It's actually graduation.
So that image of your big brother, and let's face it, we all look up to our big brothers.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And you see him in all the gear, and he's marching down and, in uniform and all that kind of stuff, and it must have looked very impressive to you as a kid.
It did. What I loved about it, and I was only 8 or 9 at the time, and I remember writing it in the book, like, it had a massive impact on me. Not because of the guns and the uniforms and the marching. I just found the unity of the whole thing, the group, because it's something I always kind of, maybe that's what attracted me, I don't know. Like, the connection of team of other people, because no matter how good you are as an individual, if you make an actual real connection with people, it makes you better at what you do, because you don't have to worry about the stuff you're not good at anymore, because someone else can do it with you or for you, you know. So it doesn't matter. Like you've extra padding, you're bulletproof. Well, not always, but you try to be anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of, I found that a massive impact on me, and it just kind of galvanized my idea of it, and I just never wanted to do anything else.
What was the moment, talking about mental toughness, you joined the army in 1990, you find yourself being shipped off to all kinds of interesting places, or maybe it happened at home. Is there any moment or a period in time where you thought, I'm actually not as mentally tough as I thought I was? This is actually overloading my senses here.
All the time. That probably happens to me every day, even up to now. But that's okay, like, for me, because I can bring it back around and reset.
Say when you were, what age were you when you joined?
I was 18 and a half, yeah.
So, I mean, you must have been green as hell then, and you're getting shouted at by DSs. And
do you know what? That never bothered me. Like, and I actually, what I loved about when I joined the army as a recruit, because I'd been in the reserve, and I used to be the FCA back then. You know, I joined illegally with a dodgy baptismal cert when I was 14. You know yourself, because someone in school's mother used to work in the sacristy, and you can get a baptismal cert, and a lad would flog him into school. It was a $5 a pop. So anyway, I got in there, and so the kind of the sting was taken out of it a little bit. But I enjoyed the whole structure of it. I enjoyed the connection of it. I enjoyed the fact that, like, you can almost hide in it a bit, because as an individual, because you're part of a collective, and you're made work as a collective. So whatever your individual skills are doesn't really matter, because it all levels out. So if you're shit at something, you can hide in that group. You know? But if you're good at something, they can hide with you. You know what I mean? So you lift everybody up, and I just love that about it. I thought it was very interesting.
I love that you break down recruits into different categories. There's different types, and I wonder which one were you, and which
probably
one
fucking all of them
did you become? So I'll give you the title that you know. This is from your experience of obviously spending so much time with these people as a recruit yourself, but then also overseeing recruits either in real life or on telly. So the first one is the fuse.
Yeah, I've seen lots of fuses.
Yeah.
Totally wired up to 90, yeah. Full of like pre-trainer and fucking launched. Yeah, like they're always too hyped up, probably too energetic, and they just explode. Like,
yeah.
You just, a certain amount of pressure, you up the heat a little bit, and
they can't hack it.
Explosion, like, you know. Explosion.
The grey man.
Grey man is probably, you'd probably hear that in a show a lot. The person who just kind of seems nonplussed. They just get on with it. You know, like that swan gliding. They don't draw too much attention, good or bad. So I think we can all do that in our lives.
Yeah,
sometimes.
Blend in. The hero.
Hero, yeah. Jump in. Let me do it. I'll get that door open, lads. And the thing about a hero is heroes will burn themselves out for other people. Unfortunately, you know, in the real world. So we're all a little combination of hero. There's a little bit of it in all of us, I guess. But you just, you know, as you get older, you temper it, that you don't have to absolutely burn yourself out all the time for people.
Yeah, you don't have to be flinging yourself on the grenade.
You don't have to, no. You can fling some other fucker on it. The
DS watcher.
Yeah, someone who's kind of looking after themselves. They'll operate, and they'll be highly effective when they're under the eye. When people are watching them.
We've all worked with those people.
All of us. Everybody has. And like, they're whatever, sucking up to the bosses. And when the reality is there and you need a hand and no one's watching, they don't care about you. Like,
yeah.
They're quick enough to leave you sink.
The team player.
Team player, yeah. There's a bit of that in all of us, where we want everybody to do well. We want, because you realise if you're part of an organisation that makes you better, and the military is the best example, because it's all about the mission, and your job is to get to the mission and to get as many people to the mission as you can, including yourself. So the more you do for the group, it comes back around, you know, when everybody buys into that.
You're definitely a team player going on the stuff that you've done, because I'm thinking of two occasions that you've spoken about in your book. So one of them is all the rest of your squad, if that's the right term, got themselves in trouble, and you were the only guy who did something right. So they were told to all strip off and jump into freezing lake water and swim down to collect something that was weighted down on chains, and you all had to.
Yeah.
So even though you weren't punished and you hadn't done anything wrong, you stripped off and jumped into the water with everyone else.
Yeah, I did, because like it's part of the collective. So what are you going to do? Just stand back and watch them doing it? You can't do that. Like I couldn't anyway. Not in that particular moment. I couldn't. Even though in hindsight, I probably should have.
You could be sitting on a rock smoking a cigarette, going,
have a cup of coffee and a donut.
Hate for you, lads.
Come on, lads. Yeah, it was funny.
And as part of your special forces training, where there was a guy who was struggling. His bag was too heavy. Tell us about that.
Yeah. It was it was different then. If you see the show, if they fail a test, it's over. Because you're going on for a year, it's like a life system. So over the year, it works in a percentage. You can, it's not exactly a fail per se. So we were involved in this mountain assessment, and he just got his weight all wrong. So I gave him a hand to try and take some of the weight off him. But in doing so, then burnt myself out as well. But like the hero thing we mentioned. But I suppose at the time, it was the right thing to do, because, there's only the two of us there. What was I going to do? Just leave him there? You can't. So I suppose I could have been failed for not passing the test. But I suppose the guys running it could probably see the reasons why I did it. And maybe, you're trying to bring that in to people, because like at the end of the day in special forces, it's not about skill. It's not about being an alpha male. It's not about having the biggest muscles or running the fastest. It's about mindset. It's about buy-in and like connecting with people. And that's what it's all about. That's what gets you through anything. Connecting. And you make those connections by showing someone that you care for them. You're going to help them out. You're going to give them a hand, and you're going to put it on the line for them. Like any team. That's what you do.
Yeah.
And you have to do stuff that's going to fuck you up to do that sometimes. And that's okay.
So they didn't fail you for that, did they? They recognised that you had...
Well, I suppose, that's what I like to think, maybe. But I suppose it wasn't a black and white fail, because it was a percentage system on that test. So, yeah, they gave me a chance to go again. And have I kind of put myself on the line for other people since? Absolutely. Why wouldn't you? Because it's the nature of the business. And have other people put themselves on the line for me all the time? Like so many times that I've been picked up by the hasp of the ass by better fellas because I was fucked and I couldn't cope. And they sorted me out all the time through my career.
The rest of those categories, just in case people are curious. So we had, there's the Walter Mitty.
Yeah, fellas who, look, people say the world now, people want the results and they don't want to put the work in.
Yeah.
That's kind of basically it. So it's the fella who has all the fancy gear, like he'd have a belt on him like Batman, with like hangy off things and bloody flares, but like probably can't run over a mountain, or he's, he can't deal with anything. Love all the gear, but can't put in the effort or doesn't have the mindset for it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You've got your natural leader, which is pretty obvious.
Yeah.
The May Feiner.
May Feiner is someone who's just all about them. They don't, they don't want to do anything that will kind of make things hard for them. It'll always be about them. They're probably someone who's never been under pressure before. And unfortunately, in that world in special forces, like the stress and pressure rate is right up there. So you're at the pin of your collar most of the time. So it's very hard to maintain that, the hide that you are that person. You can do it in a regular environment in the army, because you're not always under that much pressure. You get chances of pressure and then a break, chance of pressure break. But in the SF training, no. So it comes out in the wash, and you can see it. Like the students will see it, the instructors see it, and people
Yeah. And then you have the bluffer and the slogger.
Yeah, the bluffer speaks for itself. Someone who's just it's almost like a Walter Mitty type. And the slogger is someone they never look the part. They always look like they're a bag of shite, but they just get on with it. They get it done.
Yeah.
They don't look perfect. They don't have, the lovely hairstyle and all the gear looks beautiful. They're just in bits. They get through it. Takes all kinds.
Speaking of getting through it, talk to me about the Special Forces training. That's the bit that we're all fascinated with. And I guess this is where you learn your true mental toughness. I'm sure you had aspects of it in the regular army, but as you say, you're stepping up into this is the real deal. What were the kind of things that did you say it lasts 11 months?
Nowadays, it's 11 months and 2 weeks straight through. When I did it, it was like a month of what you see in a TV show, then a break for a week to kind of, sort yourself out, sleep and eat.
Yeah.
And then it's 7 months of skills. So there's a slight break. But nowadays it's different.
Do you think it's easier now or harder?
No, it's the same process. It's just slightly different now.
What shocked you the most? What tested your mental strength when you went into that?
How far you can actually go? How hard you can go? When you've gone so hard on a walk or an event where, I don't know, has it ever happened to people who do very hard events where you can taste the iron of your own blood in your throat when you've gone that hard? That's your breakfast. So the thing for me as well, and I keep talking about that buy-in, when you go there first, it's about yourself and it's about what you want out of it, your dreams. But along the way, you connect with these other people who have a similar dream that you have, and you just connect. It's like you don't even have to talk much. Some of my best friends in the world who did selection with me, we get on great, we're great friends. Do we have deep, meaningful conversations? Fucking no. But we just connect on that level because we know we can. And that's where it comes from, being in that environment of just being a second away from being at zero all the time. And when you're in that world, those connections and those bonds with people are what gets you over the line, because it's not about you anymore. It's about everyone. It's about the whole team.
Yeah.
And I know I keep going back to this, but it just makes you stronger, better, harder, whatever you want to be.
That's interesting. So your strength, your mental toughness is actually, it's not just you trying to find it inside you. You're actually pulling it in from other people around you.
Yeah,
that's something that maybe we don't consider in real life, that when we think about mental toughness, it seems like a very singular personal thing, but actually you're relying on the resources around you as well, the people who are in your corner.
Yes.
They can make you mentally tough.
Absolutely. And again, it comes down to that belief. If you believe in who you are, the people you work with and what you do, that's the trinity there. Your chances of being effective in anything you do are absolutely increased because you have those three fantastic things. It's like a fail-safe.
Yeah. Say those again.
You believe in yourself, believe in the people you're working with, and believe in what you do. Those three things. It lifts you out of your negativity. It lifts you out of your own shit in your head, because you haven't time to be worried about you anymore. You're worried about the guy on your right or your left, or you're worried about the team, and that's what happens. And you just become, I won't say selfless. I'm not saying we're all these wonderful selfless people. No, most people are assholes, to be fair. But it just gives you a power. I don't know what it is. And it makes you better than your own level, which is incredible. And that comes down to the mindset of it then. It means you can cope with more pressure, you can cope with more stresses.
Yeah, but you've pushed yourself so much. I'm thinking there's one incident in your training where your immune system is so banjaxed that you're throwing up underwater. So it's part of your dive training. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I was a combat diver, which I loved. And being a combat diver, I never saw any multicolored fish or nice blue water. It was usually bits of toilet paper and old curry boxes floating around in Cork Harbour and other places.
So is the idea you're training for events where you're maybe making a covert arrival on a beach or
Absolutely.
something like that?
Or hitting a ship. We'd call it a method of entry. So, parachuting is a method of entry. Getting in by vehicles, walking in. So combat diving is a method of entry. So it gives you the option to covertly hit a ship, a boat, a beach, as you say.
Yeah.
So, it's you dive on various gases, not air. So you dive on oxygen or nitrox, all these different things. So there's a lot of mechanics in it. There's a lot of training. It's quite technical. And as you go up the ladder and get better at it and, get more qualified, you become an instructor and you train people up. Like everything else in special forces, they bring it back to absolute raw, bare belief first. So they bring you down and they knock the shot out of you. It's like selection in the water. So they dog you for, it's an 8-week kind of experience where you're diving probably 6-7 dives a day, you know, probably like 40 minutes to over an hour a dive. Your turnaround in between is minimal. So they're just building up your endurance and just building it up on you all the time that you're used to it in the water. They're testing out your fares. So you're under ships in the dark. There's a test where they drop you as deep as you can go, like for a period of time in the black dark, just to see if you can hack it. And it's like a mad experience because you lose, like, you know, like gravity goes for you. It's weird. Like some people get vertigo from it. It's just a composure thing. You just got to keep yourself composed all the time, like, and that's the key value in it. So it is physically, it's very intense, but it's like I said at the start, like your want for it. Like for me, you know, again, it was that journey of realizing I wanted to be a soldier, realizing I wanted to be special forces, and achieving that. And then, so what's next? Do I just stay at this? No. What's next? Combat diving side of it, maritime.
Why were you thrown up in the water?
I just got a bug because my body was broken out. So I put it into perspective for you. Like, so you're burning through calories and nutrients so quickly. Your recovery rate is minimized. So I could actually push my fingernails. I could move them because, you know, whatever, like you're in salt water all the time. You're cold constantly. I'd put my hand in my pocket, for example. You'd cut it because your skin is just so brittle, like, you know, just from being run down constantly. So it's full on, but like, it's like everything else. Like if you want it enough, they're just challenges. Like they don't, as annoying as it is.
Well, we all like challenges, but
yeah, but I know.
But sit under a ship in the dark, you know, throwing up into our face mask.
Yeah, well, no, I was actually a DV. I was taking it out, puking back in. I was getting the timing right. It was like a little rhythm back in.
That's unreal. And are there times when if you're really struggling and feeling sorry for yourself, that the people around you just start laughing at you? And you're thinking, why is no one having sympathy on me here?
Zero sympathy. You only get sympathy if you really get hurt. Yeah. You might get a little bit of a hug. But well, yeah, like that's, again, it's that like inherent like black humour. And that was a huge part of the whole experience as well, that humour. It's like almost schoolboy humour a lot. Especially when you're deploying operations and you're dealing with more kinetic stuff, then, you know, you're dealing with like for example, Afghanistan, explosions, blah, blah, blah. You still need to have that bit of crack going on, no matter how bad it is, because if you don't do that, then you don't release that pressure. Like, and I found the army in particular, and special forces, like the crack used to be absolutely fantastic. Like, it had to be, because the level of stress is that high. Your humour has to match it, or it's not going to work out for you, you know?
Yeah. You mentioned Afghanistan there and sort of casually said explosions, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
What were those moments where that mental toughness... What were those moments when that mental toughness was really challenged?
Loads of times, because it's challenged on a daily basis without even explosions, because my job, I was in the private sector at this stage. So I was working as a security manager for a company, so I was responsible for keeping people safe. So I wasn't out there to fight the Taliban. My job was to avoid the fuckers as much as I could, and everybody else with me. That was my job. But sometimes you didn't. So I suppose it's a constant pressure of getting it right every day, getting it right. Because if you do get it wrong, then potentially someone gets hurt, someone doesn't go home, and like that's a fear in itself, you know, because of your issues. But I suppose the whole gravity then of an explosion, or the aftermath of one, or being in one, like. I tried to explain this to a friend of mine, that he asked me about the fear of it and the mortal fear. Like, yeah, it's present, but it's not the most prevalent thing in your head. Like, maybe it's a case of constantly training, being prepared, working my mindset for years. You're dealing with, okay, what do I need to do next? What's the next thing I need to cope with? What do I need to do now? And that's all you do. And like, you break whatever's going on around you down to tiny bites, and so you spend 30 seconds laser focusing on what you need to do in your head first. So get your head right. Okay, what am I going to do here? This is what I'm going to do. And you do it. Done. Okay, bit of belief, bit of confidence. I'm up another level. Then you go to the next thing and the next thing.
How do you get your head together? Say something goes off and you're thinking, oh my God, there's smoke everywhere. It's nighttime. I can't see. Where's my gear? I have to spring into action.
Yeah.
How do you get your head together in that moment?
I suppose the army and the Rangers in particular do a lot of work by osmosis. So when I started on the Ranger Wing, they didn't train you about composure. There was no kind of, the psychology of it was in its infancy. So they didn't kind of give you coping techniques. You learned by osmosis, or you didn't.
Yeah.
You just got through it. But then after a while, they started bringing in a bit more psychology to bringing in professionals, and then starting to teach people how to deal with stuff. So we used to do a thing, it's called tactical breathing. It's meditation.
Yeah.
So all you're
But it
doing
sounds really tough.
But it isn't. It's a good
breathing.
name. Yeah, it's probably an American name. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. We also call it breathing through your hole when you're when you're terrified. But all it is, like, look, you'd be all over this. Like, it's just a simple, just changing, your systems, going from that fight or flight mechanism to just giving yourself an opportunity to just hold on for a second and get a breath. And all you're doing is, breathing in for 2, hold, out for 4, do it a couple of times, rinse, repeat. At the same time, you're focusing on what's immediate. The next 10 seconds sometimes, or the next 30, whatever it is, that's all you're doing. And you have to continually do it, So
when something goes off, in movies you hear the explosion, and then they put that sound effect in of the ee, that high pitched, mimicking the ear ringing. What's that moment like when just it goes off and your ears are ringing? And is it anything like we see in films?
I'm not sure. I can only explain for myself. One I actually got knocked on my arse from. It was big enough one. It was a ton or a ton and a half. And I was about 75 meters from it.
Where did this happen?
In Afghanistan. So kind of, it came, so a blast wave will come the point of like least resistance. So it'll come down a corridor. You have overpressure. It'll go over buildings. It'll go around them. And if it's big enough, it'll go through it. Or it'll do all 4 at one. So that's how it works. So I was in this corridor, and, I just got a feeling of something. And within a second or two, this thing was on me, and I just got blown back into a room. But as you're saying there, I described it in the book about your head is ringing, but initially for the first while, do you know when you're a kid in the pool, right? If you go to the pool with your family, your friends, and where I grew up in Cork City, in a corporation pool, it used to be always jammed. There'd be like 5,000 people in the pool like that, right? And when you go underwater as a kid, and you're trying to hold your breath with your friends so you can see under the longest, and the sound you're hearing above the surface, do you know the way things sound like when you're underwater?
Yeah.
That's what it's like. So after that initial blast, it's like, that's what it's like. It's like all the sounds you're hearing are like you're underwater. It's weird.
Yeah.
And then there can be ringing as well. But like the underwater thing lasted for a good while. Like, so everyone is talking to you like that. It's mad. You go, what the fuck? Am I after taking something here, or what's the crack? It's a mad one. So
you got this explosion force came down the shockwave. Well, I'm using all the wrong terms here.
It doesn't matter what it is.
Big explosion
Call it
force.
what you want.
So you get blown down the corridor and into a room.
In my room. I was just closing the door. I was getting ready to go for dinner, and got knocked in through the door, and just was lying there in the dark for a couple of seconds, regretting why I didn't become a priest or whatever the fuck. I should have listened to my mother. I'm lying there in the dark, and it's cold. It's instantly cold because all the windows are gone. It was -7 outside. And I'm lying there, and that sound is going on for me. I go, what the fuck was that? Like, I know what it was, but your brain is jolted. So my brain is trying to reset. So I'm just lying there for less than a minute, I'd say. Started doing a few breathing techniques, sorting myself out, making sure I wasn't injured, gave myself a self-check, make sure everything was good. And it was, thank God. And then I just got up then, and you're always prepared for everything. So your kid is always ready. And that's another part of your belief. When you're prepared for something, when you've planned it, when you've thought of what can go wrong, or if worst case scenario, I can still do this, then it gives you a chance to get a foothold, which I did. I got up, got my kid on, and my job then is to go and make sure these guys who've done that don't get in and start killing everybody, because that's what they try and do.
What did you do at that point?
I put my kid on and went straight to our vehicle gate where I thought they were coming in. So it wasn't just me. I have a team. I had like 20 guys. I had 20 Gurkhas, ex-Nepalese military guys who were the guards, and they were all, none of them were killed, thank God, but they were all kind of in a disheveled state like myself.
Yeah.
So we just kind of reset and just try and figure out what the best options is. So first thing is stop them getting in. Then after that, then I have to go recovering people. getting people in so I can protect them. So I had like whatever internationals, like people from sales teams, you know, managers, blah, 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 who are just there working for a telecommunications company. So we live in like almost like a motel is the way it's set up. So I get all them in a secure area. And we also had a call center that I had to bring people out of. So you have to go in and clear that and get everybody out. You're just doing a head count. You're trying to patch people up.
It seems like the world's worst place for a call center.
I know. People have phones in
I
Afghanistan.
like phones, but you know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but like the thing about
have you tried turning it off and that?
Yeah, hang on a minute. I know, yeah. But I suppose the thing about it too, like it's very much like it's our factory setting, I call it. The way you kind of figure yourself, the way you give yourself options. Like I just go bring it down to very simple techniques, and that's all you do. So you do the really simple stuff. First thing always being get yourself squared away first. And if that means stepping in a doorway for a minute when no one's looking, doing a breathing technique, having a small cry, whatever it is you need to do, then step out and off you go, you know. But you have to keep resetting yourself, because if you forget to reset yourself, it runs away from you. Like,
yeah,
I find in my experience of that.
Did you ever see anyone around you just go to pieces in one of those situations?
Not guys I work with, but obviously they were all just the people I had there were civilians. So when I was clearing that call center, like I was going into rooms like this, you know, and there's people hiding under desks, and there's people jumping onto you and screaming at you and running at you, and like, you know, we've been breached at this stage, so we don't know who's in and who isn't. So like, I'm just saying, don't shoot the wrong people. I'm saying to myself, you know, which is hard to do, and that's a discipline thing too. We did a lot of that in the Ranger Wing, you know, hostage rescue stuff and shoot no shoot as we call it, not shooting the hostage. And it takes a lot of training to do it. But you come to a stage where it's all about composure, Dermot, like, and just taking that breath, taking that extra second, and that's all that you need to do all the time. Because when we forget to do that, that's when you lose control. That's when the pressure takes over. That's when you get anxious. That's when you get overwhelmed. Because if I stopped and thought about it after that initial blast and I'm lying there in the dark and every fibre of my body is screaming out, crawl under your bed and hide. No one will see you. But you can't do that, you know?
Yeah.
Something else kicks in then. Your training, your process, your mindset, how you train yourself, what you do. That kicks in. It does. Really does.
Can you come up with some kind of poor excuse like, are you hiding under the bed, Ray?
Oh yeah, I'm trying to find my keys.
I'm just checking for mines. Yeah. Like mental toughness in that scenario, I mean, it's such an extreme way of living, and I say your just day-to-day level of heightened anxiety must be kind of beyond, particularly if you're, say, in a peacekeeping role. You don't even, usually you're just in the middle. You know, you're like someone in a bar fight going, hey, guys, you're the most likely guy to get a dig or a glass in the face or something, you know, in that situation. So if you're in a peacekeeping mission, just that sense of day-to-day heightened stress levels, how do you get used to that?
And you know what? That's a great point, Dermot, because it's actually worse than a UN mission. And as a younger guy, I did 4 tours in the regular army where you're in that world in South Lebanon, which is in vogue now at the moment, like where, you know, Israelis, like, you can see what they're doing now. They've been doing that in smaller scale for years. Okay. And that's what they do. You know, like Hezbollah, whoever attacked their compound, they shell everything. They shell all the villages. And like, obviously the UN troops are in there too. So I suppose what I found very frustrating about all that is your ability to react is minimized because you can't. Whereas I found in the private sector, when I worked in Afghanistan, for example, it was very simple. Bad guy, shoot him. UN, you can't do that. And like, that gives you a certain stress-free environment because you don't have to worry about it too much. Now, I'm not saying you can just slaughter people. It's not like that. Yeah. But if you're in the environment I was in after that blast and these guys are coming in, you can, like. Yeah. Because what else are you going to do? But in the UN missions, you can't. And the danger level is off the scale. Like in Lebanon, I was there in the 90s. My brother was there in the 80s and 90s. It's a bloody dangerous place. Like, a lot of guys got killed and hurt there, you know, trying to protect people, like families and whatnot, because that whole UN mission means, you're right, you're in the middle. Like, you know, it really has to be bad. Like, you nearly have to ring some lad in New York before you can shoot. You know what I mean? It's fucking crazy. Yeah. Shit. Like, that's what you're doing.
Talk to me about bringing that toughness out of the army. You know, those times, we were talking to Cillian Murphy on a previous episode of this, And he was saying one of the hard things for him as an actor is when you're away a lot of the time and you come home and you're trying to readjust to home life. Now, I'm not comparing Gideon's life in any way to Special Forces, but I can see parallels in there that you're away, you're absent, and then you're trying to readjust. You go from a high stress, unbelievable high stress environment into a home environment, and you're meant to just switch over. What's that transition like? And how do you develop mental toughness, as a civilian?
I suppose, like, to be fair, the whole, say in Afghanistan, for example, when I worked there, I'd go to Afghanistan for 8 to 10 weeks at a time. So flying in on the Emirates flight into Kabul from Dubai, having my last beer because, you won't be drinking a whole lot for that month. Like, I just get into my mindset, I get prepared, good team on the ground, a lot of stuff set up. Whatever comes at me. I can react to it or be proactive, whatever. So that's fine, right? The flight out of there, going home. So flying from Dubai to Dublin to go home to my family and the kids and all that kind of stuff, like, stressed out. So breathing techniques, because I have 4 weeks at home, and like that 4 weeks, it's not pressure, but like I need to fit in. It's like Killian said, like the world has gone on. It hasn't stopped for me, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I left in March, I'm coming home in June. Like, everyone's gone to June. They're not waiting in March for me, like, so you got to get in. And I always had a fear that I'd be in good form and you have to make sure the kids are going, everyone's okay, and my family are okay, and meeting this person, that person. Because you only have 2 weeks really, because you're home for the first 2 weeks and then you're preparing to go for the second 2 weeks. So it's a really kind of strange thing. And like, for me, I suppose the routine of even being in Afghanistan or being away with the military, it's almost cheating in life, because life becomes so simple for you. It comes down to absolute brass tacks, very simple things. Staying safe, keeping people safe, getting your dinner, sleeping, resting, simple stuff. And all the complication goes out of your life, because it has to. You come home, then all the complication, there you go, boom, it's dropped back on you.
But
it's a black and white existence for me, like it was on you.
But you've been asked to do such different things. You go from that military life to then it's like, will you go down to the Centra and get us a pint of milk and a box of Rice Krispies? Stuff. Yeah.
But like I could slot into that. Like, it's not like you're off, you're not Jason Bourne going off doing mad stuff. Like, to be honest, like, a lot of the time, even in Afghanistan and other places, like, it's routine. It's the levels of stress and the levels of kind of, energy are at a standard level. So that's 90% of the time. But then you have that 10% of carnage that happens where it goes up there. But most of the time, you're just normal routine, but you're always aware that carnage can come any second. Like. And it always comes just when you think you're ready, and you switch off a little bit or you forget about it for a second. Bang, that's when it comes. It's mad. Like, it's like it knows, right? Watch this fucker, he's calm. Let's do this to him.
Yeah.
It's mad.
Part of mental toughness, I'm guessing, is the ability to grow and learn from stuff where you didn't get it right.
Absolutely. And that self-forgiveness piece is huge. I've fucked up loads of stuff in my career, got people hurt, personal life, all that kind of stuff. I've fucked up so much, right? But what do you do with that? Like, you have to learn, and to get better with your mindset and to be more effective in what you're doing, you have to make peace with that. You have to make peace, because if you don't make peace with that, things you've done wrong, either personally or professionally, you're carrying it, like, and that minimizes your ability to be effective, because you're carrying 10% of something that happened 5 years ago. Why, like,
because that's one thing I was almost surprised, and I guess I shouldn't be, because it seems obvious, but when I hear you talking about self-kindness and writing about self-kindness, you don't think mental toughness and self-kindness go hand in hand. Mental toughness, you imagine a harsh voice. Come on, get your shit together. Self-kindness is, sure, look, the DS is angry, but sure, take another 10 minutes in bed.
Yeah.
But it's not that. It's not going soft on yourself unnecessarily. But how do you see self-kindness fitting in?
I agree. And it's your self-awareness that you realise that you can't let that go on. You can't be constantly putting yourself at 100 miles an hour. When you get those moments, even on operations, where you can take a minute out for yourself, or you can take 5 minutes, where you can do something to take you out of yourself or to remove something from your head, then you have to do it. Like, because when you don't, it catches up. And I didn't always do that, Dermot. Like, I've had, I remember being on leave after somewhere for a while, and I wasn't in a good place because, like, I hadn't dealt with what I had to work on well. And I assumed, because I had 6 weeks off, oh, this is great, I can do what I want now, and blah, blah, blah. And I crashed, like, and I had a hard few weeks of being on a mad one because...
Is this the bit where you talk about in your book?
Yeah, I mentioned in the book because, like, for me, your routine and your habits is what creates how mindful you are, like, how good you are at stuff. It doesn't just happen because you want it to happen.
Yeah.
You have to do the simple little things on a daily basis. Your own little self-care techniques, whatever they are, physical training, your diet, sleep, actually minding yourself, actually listening to yourself, going off somewhere for a few minutes and actually listening to yourself, not just overthinking a thought bouncing on your head, actually thinking about it for a solution. Okay, where am I going with this? Like, you have to do that, because when I don't do that, then that's when it's not good.
Yeah.
Even to this day.
Well, I know in the book you talk about your first marriage had ended, and you'd come home for this 6 weeks period, and then you ended up, out of sheer habit, going back to your old house, and then because you weren't in a good state of mind,
I went on a mad one. Yeah,
you've smashed the place to bits.
Yeah,
and I just can't imagine.
Yeah, but, like, I'm a very controlled individual, but I'm also ruthless in my nature.
Yeah,
and I've made peace with that, because it's like a step thing for all of us, and, like, there's good, bad, and indifferent in all of us, and it's about controlling it and understanding where to go with it. And for me, that incident, why I didn't like it, is because I actually lost control completely. I completely lost control.
But you were upset. I mean, what was happening
but
for
look,
you?
I've been more upset since in different things, but I realised how to manage it, and it's what I'm talking about, that habit routine, how you expel the demons, for want of a better word, on a daily basis, and whatever that is for you. Like, do shit that, like, you enjoy, do shit that you get rid of the stuff, talk to people. Don't wait for it to catch up, like, because that's what happens. No matter what you do, like, and then you're fucked. Do you know what I mean?
Does looking back at that version of you, that's nearly 25 years ago.
Yeah.
That younger version of you.
Youngish, yeah.
Do you look on that person with empathy, or
I do. I don't, like. I do. I know why I did it. I know, the repercussions of it. I know how hard it was at the time.
We should point out that you didn't physically hurt anybody. You just damaged your own property.
And myself.
Yeah.
Jumping through windows. But anyway, like, I made peace with it. Like, I know why it happened. But what I took from the experience was, like, to put myself in a situation where that wouldn't happen again, where I'd be aware of maybe the feelings, the sensations coming up to that, because I was blocking out issues for months and months and months. Like, you can't do that, like, because it comes back.
Yeah. So these were personal relationship issues that you just weren't dealing with.
No, I just wasn't. I wasn't talking to anybody. I wasn't, like, I wasn't sharing the information with people, and it's just in your head constantly. Of course, it's going to come out, like.
Yeah.
I'm doing mad shit then. But I realised that was the mistake, and But see, the arrangement were great. They set me off to East Timor in the jungle for 5 months, and that sorted me right out then. Brilliant.
Let's bring him where he can't.
Yeah, let's
break any more windows. Let's send him to East Timor.
Yeah, try breaking these trees now, you fucker. See you get on.
What was the worst place you've ever been? The toughest, where you go, you know what? I would do a lot of that stuff again, but this I wouldn't do again.
The toughest place I've been in, I suppose, not necessarily physically tough, but just an awful environment, was Liberia in West Africa, because of the conditions of what was going on in the country. Like, even the jungle thing, like, it was monsoon, it was hardship, but it was good, like, like, physical hardship isn't always a bad thing. I know any of the other places I've worked, but I think Liberia was probably the most kind of detrimental, because if you stop and thought about it and have a step back and just look at what was going on every day with people and kids and what was happening to people there, you just go, Jesus Christ, like, it was just a bad environment, like,
Do you find you're able to just switch that emotional side off in those environments? I guess you have to function properly, don't you?
Yeah, sometimes I do. I find, like, when you do let emotions take control, then, or you do let feelings take control, then you're not in control anymore. No, they're brilliant, don't get me wrong. Like last minute of the county final and you're a point down, you need a bit of fire then.
Yeah.
But like to stay in control, I find if you keep that composure, that calm as best you can. Like you can't control your emotions, you can't cut them off, but you can be aware of them and you can control what you do with them. I've learned you can't kind of hold that emotion like that. You can't. Let it in and then see where you're going with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But don't let it be the only thing. And the good thing about emotions, mine anyway, it's like a bus. There'll be another one in 10 minutes, so you're fine. You know what I mean? Even because I'm nuts or something anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like that's what I found. And I suppose it helped me out then getting out. Like I'm in my 50s now. I'm still learning. Like, have I it all wired and sorted out? Absolutely not. I still make balls and stuff left, right and centre. But like when I'm in the zone and I'm in my right mindset, I'm very effective then. Like I can shut things off. I can be very pervasive. I can forget about something instantly and move on, But like it does come back up then after a while. So you got to figure that out then. So I was so good at being resilient over my career of dealing with these situations at the time. Move on. When you come out of theatre, then you come home and you're doing other stuff. You need to figure out then how to balance that out. Because it's grand to be able to deal with it in the moment, but you have to figure out how to deal with it further down the line.
So how did you deal?
Yeah, like the army is very good for like, counselling and stuff like that. And even talking to friends, like colleagues of mine that I worked with, I found that to be the best way because the lads just slag the shit out of you. Do you know what I mean? And that's always a good thing.
Takes the power out of it when you can laugh at it.
Yeah, but even the likes of, like psychology stuff, getting therapy, whatever works for people. Like I used to be a kind of an advocate of, as a younger man, why would you be doing that? No, you need to do that if that's what's working for you. Like, because all you're doing is getting these ideas out of your head that could cause problems down the line. Just get rid of them.
Do you think the army has changed in terms of dropping maybe some of the macho element to it in terms of just toughen up? Mental toughness was...
Look, I'm going to show my gorilla side here now. I suppose at the end of the day, look, when you're looking at a kinetic world where people are coming to do violence at the most extreme levels, like you can't talk them down at that stage. Like sometimes you need rough and tough people that can deal with that. And I'm not an advocate of being a hard man, but when it goes to that stage and you cross that line, then you need to be there. Like, and I think as a world and as a nation, we're trying to sanitize our human nature, and violence, the application of violence is part of our human nature. Like, and you can't completely sanitize. Yeah, you can manage it. I'm not saying you can go killing people and stuff. I'm not saying that at all. But like, we can't like PC all that stuff. Yeah. Because some people don't get that, and they'll take you on, they'll take you out, and you need to be ready for it.
Yeah.
You just have to like.
But the army is. I was fortunate enough to be asked to do a little bit of meditation with the lads in Camp Shamrock, lads and ladies out in the Lebanon. And I was kind of surprised that the army were using tools like yoga and meditation. Yeah. But they were saying that, no, this is what we do in the evening time. And it's one of their tools they use to, I guess, like we're talking about, to process some of that stuff. And to deal with that constant state of stress arousal.
Yeah, I suppose when the military started all that, they were looking at like the cure of when someone had issues, whereas now it's more preventative. Like, and I love the fact that they're doing that. And I mentioned to you about us doing that tactical breathing, which is a form of very quick meditation. It's the same process, like, and it's something I always did, like, because I did martial arts as a young fella, and my brother-in-law was my trainer, Mike, and he taught me how to kind of meditate to a certain level. And it's something I used all my career, And was it all very Zen kind of stuff? Probably not. It was probably short duration, but I've always found it very effective, I think cognitive is good. Like,
you do a lot of work in companies now, and with sports teams and all that. What are are there common themes that come up for you when you're dealing with regular Joes and Marys?
But we're all the same. Like, regular Joes are all the same. Like, special forces Joes and senior football Joes and camogie players, and we're all wired the same. Like, there's slight differences, but we all kind of relate to the same things. I believe, and like that's why I always harp on the team thing, the purpose thing, because they're the key values. Like, it hasn't changed since the Stone Age. Yeah, we just fancy your clothes now, more money and tech.
Yeah.
Like, we're still the same animal. Like, so all the stuff that I was doing with teams in the military directly transfers into, HR teams, any company I've worked with, any group of people, because what do we work for? Like, what drives us? So when you figure out what drives people, it's like survival, belonging, being independent, or being interdependent on other people, where you're at a very high level with people with you. So they're your 4 levels. And like, you can work with anyone at that level, because all it's all about for me, right, is your balance in life, your process, and fulfillment. And whatever that is for you, like, they're the 3 things you need to tick. And once you get all that right in a team, in work, at home, you're in a much better place. And it helps with all the mindfulness stuff as well then, because you're happier about what you're doing. And it's about what I said earlier, it's about making peace with yourself. Like, when you make peace with yourself, it's incredible. It's some difference. Instead of beating yourself up or giving out to yourself or constantly battering yourself, oh, I did this wrong and I'm a gobshite and I'm this. Yeah, you are, but like, move on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. We touched on purpose earlier. What do you do, if you meet people who say, I don't have any sense of purpose. I don't know what my purpose is. I just go to work and I think I just get money. Like,
but some people are happy enough in that environment, in that survival environment. Whatever happens, and that's okay for them. Like you don't always need, to have this goal or this mission that you want to do, but you have to get some fulfillment from something. You have to, like, because what happens then? Like, are you afraid to try something out? Maybe. Like, do you think you're not going to be good enough? Yeah, but you do it anyway. Like, I suppose I come from a world where you have to make do. Like, you have to make the best of every opportunity you have. If that is in a hard environment where you're trying to survive, yeah. Does that mean career stuff when you're competing with other people? Yeah. But that's what you have to do. Like, you just have to try and make the best version of what you're doing, or what you're trying to do for yourself and your team. That's kind of where it comes from for me.
In terms of mental toughness, sometimes, being happy with your lot might be seen as being kind of weak. And I really appreciating what you have, because it means you're not reaching, striving. Like, is it possible to be really mentally tough and be perfectly happy where you are?
Absolutely. Like, I'm sure you'd agree, like, some of the most uncomplicated, happiest people in the world have the simplest existence. Like, and I mentioned that about in the military, it's almost cheating, because you're going off in a different world where life becomes very simple. And what I've learned in my career is, the simpler you keep things, the chances of being happier, effective, better are improved, because you just keep it simple. You don't have to complicate anything. And the times I've complicated stuff, that's when the fucking wheels have come off for me big time. Or the arse fell out. So I find, and I suppose the whole mindset of all that is like, did I learn all that in the range wing? Yeah, it honed it. But like, I suppose you need a certain amount of natural ability, in where you're going, in your mindset, because you just do, like, and you can definitely train. Like, you help people with it, it's so important. People sometimes just don't see what's obvious to you in themselves. You know what I mean? Do you ever feel that with people sometimes? Like, you can see it, like, I can see that, like, the potential you have here is incredible. You just need to maybe turn this a little bit, or I need to fuck you off a bridge or something, or throw you in cold water, or whatever it is. That usually gets it out.
Yeah. Like, there's a perception, there's definitely an increase in anxiety amongst younger people. And there's sometimes people wonder, is it a lacking of mental toughness amongst young people?
I don't agree, right? I think you're a product of your surroundings. And like, there's great young people that I work with now are as good as really hardy fellas I was with in the 70s and 80s. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, we do the snowflake and this generation, that generation. Bollocks, right? It's all about what's around you. And look, if you want to treat your children or young people in that vein, then that's the way they'll be. But I will say this though, in the society we live in now, the world we live in now, like, we push fear on people all the time. We push fear on people. We push fear of, what if this happens? Fear of this, like, all the time. So we actually almost feed people's anxiety all the time, because we push them to a place then as well where they feel that even the smallest little issue is exploded for people. Oh no, like you're not right unless this is wrong with you. You're going, what the fuck? Like when we were younger and it wasn't that complicated, you just got on with it. You just fixed it, or you didn't. But I think now we push people towards it in the world we live in. I just think we're not doing our young people any favors. You know, we're almost creating a lack of resilience, a lack of being mindful with them, because we're taking away their natural ability to have their own power. Like, you know, we often are. We're letting them know, oh, you can get it from outside, you can get it from this group, or this person can help you with it. You can do it yourself, like. I think. And I think it's about, you know, I have 2 kids. I have a 16-year-old boy and a 12-year-old girl, and like, you know, they're the same as any other kids. I don't like hell week them when I go home. It doesn't work like that, you know. But I'm a firm believer though in letting them make mistakes, letting them figure things out themselves, and letting them get it wrong, because the sooner they learn that, you know, things can be hard for you, but you can bounce back from stuff, because you can't have the perfect life for people. If you think you'll have the perfect life, you won't. You have to be ready for the bumps, and the more ready you are, then the bump doesn't affect you as much. You just get on with it.
Yeah.
You know, no matter what happens, no matter how bad it is, illness, losing someone, whatever is in your life, you can bounce back from anything, like, if you want it.
Finally, will there be a knock on the door at some point? And there'll be an old army buddy standing there with his duffel bag saying, one more mission, Ray. We just need you for this one more mission.
I'd love
Your
to say
stuff's
no.
already in the chopper.
Yeah, I'd love to say no, but yeah, look, even in my head, I'm still like 25. I can still do that, you know, and I hope it'll always be like that. Like the want to go will always be there. Being able to, probably not, but I'm okay with that. You know, I'm okay with that. It's great. I can wave off the uncles doing it. Go on, lads. I'm going for a walk with the dog there. Best of luck. Yeah, like I loved it when I did it. Like it made me a lot of who I am. I had some incredible experiences. Like I met people that I loved. You know, I met people that were incredibly interesting. I met people who were nuts. I met people who were like brilliant, terrible. It was like such an emotional roller coaster, but such a rewarding experience. And I wouldn't change a second of it. Even the stuff that went shit, I wouldn't, because I just wouldn't, because it was it was good crack in the main.
So it's today. Ray, thanks so much for chatting to me.
Great to be here, Dermot. Yeah, enjoyed it. Thanks.